Hi, my name is Karina Akidal. I'm the managing editor of Canadian Auto Dealer, and I'm here with Alexi Venneri of Digital Airstrike in Arizona. Now, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what the situation is like for dealers in Arizona and maybe just in the US in general.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. We work with about 5,000 different dealerships across the US and even in Canada. And it's a little different, honestly. Each state is a little different. Even some of the cities, if the state hasn't enacted, a stay-at-home order, some of the cities are actually doing it. So it's case by case. I would say more often than not, by far, they've deemed automotive as an essential service, which means certainly on the repair side, they are still allowing the dealerships to operate their service facilities and even parts, but they're asking them to do the best practices such as social distancing, actually take service appointments. I know some dealers in the past would have like a service scheduler on their website, but they just take everybody and figure it out. And that kind of did lead to wait times or people in the service lounges. So now they're just not able to do that. They might have limited some of their repair staff because volume has come down even on the service side. So they need to be very specific now in how they're handling that. I would say the other big change is just around now valet service, concierge service, that the dealers are having to come up with a way to go pick up vehicles at a customer's home, bring them in for service. But a lot of them are also doing sales. So it's not just repair. Working with, there's certainly states where they're not closed down, they're just practicing social distancing. Probably about half the states are still in that spot. And the ones where they've actually issued some sort of, mandate to not have gatherings of more than so many people, we've been working with dealers to help educate them that just because your showroom maybe has to close, that doesn't mean you stop talking to customers. There's some really powerful data right now that in the US alone, in the next 2 months, there's 1.8 million lease returns happening. This is kind of that time of year historically when sales are good. Leases are coming up. If 3 years ago they leased and or purchased, and they're getting those vehicles ready for summer road trips with the kids. So the demand's there. Literally, it happened to me. I had a vehicle that lease was due at the end of this month, and I just had to get something. I didn't have an option. So I went out there and I saw who was doing test drives at home, willing to do delivery, or in the dealership, practice social distancing. And it actually worked out great. It was less busy. The staff had maybe a little more time to explain things. Amazing incentives right now from the manufacturers. So quite honestly, it's just a great time to buy a car. And it's just now the dealers, adapting to change and finding new ways to accommodate kind of the world we're in right now. And the other thing that we're seeing is consumers are really appreciating it. They're finding that they've got more time to do research. There's web searches are up, leads are actually up, talking to some lead providers. They might be taking longer to buy, biding their time, but they're definitely checking out the incentives. And I think that consumers are going to love this new way of buying a car, so much so that even once we get through this, and we will, even if it's not mandated to have that distancing occurring, I think consumers are going to want it. So that's what we're really seeing down here.
Great. Well, I also understand that Digital Airstrike does have something to offer, or at least to help dealers through this difficult period. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what the company is doing, not just for US dealers, but for Canadians as well, to help dealerships kind of move through the COVID-19 pandemic.
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I'm originally from Canada. In fact, my first paycheck job was working in a dealership, believe it or not. I was part of a Saturday crowd that we used to cut cake. I was in high school, and we would take leads and hand out hot dogs and welcome people into the dealership when they were doing tent sales. So very familiar with the Canadian market, but I've been down here now about 22 years. And so when we started Digital Airstrike, it was really looking at how do we connect consumers with dealers, and it was during the recession. So it was 10 years ago I started the company, and this is when social networks were just starting to explode, even before advertising on social media. And we were like, look, there's a low-cost way, and let's go find where consumers are, and let's claim the pages for the dealers. Let's have those conversations. Let's make it easier for consumers to get the information that they want about vehicles or the dealerships and their incentives. So that's where the company started. So we're very flexible in that regard. Over the past 10 years, we've developed a lot of different tools that really facilitate more of that virtual sales experience, and certainly for service as well. So what we've done during this time is for any new dealer client that wants to work with us, we are giving away a lot of our technology at no cost for them to try it for the next 30 or 60 days. We've also partnered with a number of the manufacturers. They're helping to kick in funds. There's a lot of co-op available. So that's been great. But we've also launched our brand new virtual retailing program. It's very applicable whether you're in the US or Canada. And we've got an amazing product called Video Logics. So just like you're watching this video today, we actually launched this back in February at the NIDA convention. So timing was good, and no, we didn't have a crystal ball, but we launched it because we did see a need that consumers want to engage with dealerships by video. It helps with transparency, it helps create a connection, and it's a great tool that we're again allowing dealers to use at no cost. We've even loaded up some ready-made videos that if there's a certain situation and you want to communicate to your community that you're still open for service, maybe by appointment, that you're practicing social distancing, you wipes in the dealership. We've actually already filmed a lot of spots that you can just take and use. So that's available to the dealers. As well, we have artificial intelligence sales assistants and chatbots that, again, we've had for a number of years now. We've integrated with Marketplace for pre-owned vehicle sales, and just to be able to communicate with consumers 24/7, whether it's responding to those Marketplace leads or on your website. That, again, we're making available in conjunction with a brand new offering we developed, which is power texting. So for consumers clients that you already work with that are in your database, certainly there's different rules around privacy and opt-outs, but if you want to be able to communicate by text to one or more of your customers, we have an amazing tool that we've launched that can even then be linked to our AI chatbot. So imagine talking about you've got new service hours, right? That's very appropriate. Maybe you've got a new limited list and a menu of the services you can do, or maybe you're now delivering parts to homes or picking up vehicles for that kind of concierge delivery, but you want to get the word out. It's a great way to do that. And again, we right now are educating dealers, we're a partner, and we're turning on these tools and helping them implement it. Because now's the time to try new things. Well, maybe you're a little slower in the store, obviously. Embrace the technology, and you may find a whole new way to do business that's more profitable. Maybe ultimately you need less staff, and you can do more and have happier customers in the process. So I really am encouraging dealers across North America to embrace some new tools, and not just from us, but really any of your vendor partners. The last thing that we're doing is we're offering a complimentary budget review. So we're saying, hey, let us take a look at your budget. We have teams of people here that have worked with auto groups, all brands. We're very familiar with co-op for brands that offer that, and dealers that can take advantage of that. So that's another area where we're like, let us be a partner. Let us help you maybe reallocate some of your expenses, reduce some expenses, and just make sure that you're making every dollar you're spending right now work really, really hard for you.
Now, you've mentioned that you actually you've been working with dealers, training them, educating them. So throughout this process, what have you found that they need to work on? What are like some of the areas they're struggling in, and what advice can you give in these areas?
Sure. Some very specific examples. So it's been interesting that historically some of the general managers maybe don't look at service marketing. It's not a big part of their plan. It's almost taken for granted. So we've encouraged them to look at spending more dollars to drive traffic for service, and holistically look at your budget. So are they really creating a budget that talks about digital spend for sales and service? All the technology partners you're working with, we're finding things like duplicate vendors offering and including free call tracking, but yet they're not even maybe using either one. So is that an expense you could maybe refine and sharpen the pencil on? That's one area that we're finding. The other thing that potentially is more applicable in the US, but I would encourage our Canadian dealers to look into this as well. There are a number of new programs right now for businesses in terms of getting some relief, whether it's some tax relief, low interest loans. Down here, we've got a new program with the Small Business Association. Normally, dealers don't think of themselves as a small business, but they do qualify under some of these programs. So we've been educating them on investigating, consulting with your employment lawyers, your tax accountants, any advisor you have to see, are there some funds available to you? The other thing we're doing is having them look at also employment law. So again, down here in the States, historically, I think when times were maybe rough for dealers, they might have gone straight to layoff. Well, we now have programs that are encouraging all businesses to do something called furlough instead of lay off employees, which means they're still technically employed by the dealer, but you don't have them working at that period of time. And then the different states down here have opened up lessened the restrictions on some of the programs to get UI, for example, unemployment insurance, and letting them stay on the payroll, so to speak, for benefits. And so they're still your employee and you can bring them back as soon as things get better, but they can qualify for some government grants and programs that maybe before they couldn't. So there's a number of things we're definitely coaching the dealers on. Get with your HR professionals, your benefit administrators, tax accountants, lawyers, and get creative. And I think they're really appreciating some of those tips. And it's been pretty interesting what they've been finding in terms of how maybe the technology providers that they work with have features they never turned on, or they're paying for something they don't need. So now's the time to kind of dig in and see how you can become more efficient. So let's hope this isn't a long, drawn out, recession, or even, heaven forbid, a depression, but it's a moment in time. We're getting hit with it all at once, and hopefully we'll come back faster than we have in other times of crisis. So, we're looking for those linings, and certainly it's a great time to really train your staff on using those tools and just get more efficient and also build connections with your customers.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, and I wish you and your family good health and safety during this difficult period.